It's really nice to be in a room full of people who are interested in marketing, because my career, I now work on Amazing If full-time, my business, but my whole career has been in marketing and I kind of miss it. So I feel like it's nice to see lots of people who are keen to talk about marketing. So before I start, a little bit of audience participation, potentially more than for the question that Richard just asked you, which only had Anna and Edward slightly putting their hands up. Hands up if in the next 12 months you think you are facing what you think is like a pretty big career decision. Like, hands up. Any of you thinking, in the next 12 months, I've got a bit of a career decision to make? Okay? So about half the room, the rest of you thinking, I'm absolutely fine, no career decisions for me. All right, keep your hands up a minute. Put your hands down. No, let's change that. Keep your hand up if you are feeling a little bit nervous or uncertain about that. So hands up if you're thinking, decision to make in the next 12 months, I feel a little bit uncertain about it. Okay, so let's summarise what we're seeing. Half of you, slightly more than half of you, got a career decision to make in the next 12 months, and all of you, I think pretty much all of you, are feeling a little bit uncertain about that. Okay, so that's kind of where we are as a room. That's pretty normal. If you look at how much careers are changing and moving around, it's pretty likely that at least half of you will be thinking about your next step. The challenge with the second question, the how are you feeling question, is that uncertainty about your career, like whether you're going to make a good decision or not, am I going to do the right thing, that comes from a place of there being good and bad career decisions, and there being right and wrong career decisions to make. And that's the territory of something that we call an Amazing If, like the staircase mindset for careers. So let me illustrate this for you a second. By the way, I'm going to move over here so you can see it. I don't have slides because I think we tend to see quite a lot of them. You will see a lot of slides in your career, particularly if you go into marketing. Slides are brilliant, especially if they're made by PowerPoint. Obviously, Microsoft lover. But we do see quite a lot of them, so I don't use them. I draw not because I'm a good artist. I'm just getting that all out there now. So this staircase thing. So careers, they used to look a lot like this. So they used to be quite linear, quite predictable, very much about like advancement and promotion. And in that context, there probably were good or bad decisions you could make. You know, a bad decision wouldn't help me advance up my career path. And those careers are quite a lot about comparison. Where am I compared to somebody else? My friend's just got a promotion, so I need a promotion. And it's all about this idea that there's this destination that's quite linear, quite predictable, I don't know, with some super senior happy state at the end of it. It's not where we are now. Careers do not look like that anymore. Careers, I think fortunately, you may not think this, but I think careers now are way more like that. They are much, much more squiggly. They're not predictable. They're really fluid. They're pretty uncertain. And in this context, it's really important that you take control of your career. So if you go back like 10, 15 years, maybe even your parents' careers, they could go into an organisation and they could feel pretty confident that that company would develop them, and they might be there for 10, 15 years, and they would move up the hierarchy because that's how companies worked. That's how they were structured. That was quite a fair expectation. That is not the way that companies work anymore. Companies are having to constantly change and evolve. Jobs that we are going to be doing in the future don't even exist yet. So I'll give you some of mine. I was, here you go. When I was at BP, I was a Director of Customer Experience and Thought Leadership. That was a fashionable job that just appeared. And then I went to go and launch an app-based loyalty program at Virgin. But when I was at uni, there weren't, and this makes sound old, but there weren't even apps when I was at uni. I couldn't have put that on my job description. So a lot of the jobs you are going to be doing do not exist yet, which makes it really hard for you to plan for them. Now, Squigly Careers, these careers that have got lots more fluidity in them, where you can move around a lot more, you don't have to be defined by the last job that you did, they are full of opportunity for you. You don't have to follow someone else's path. You can make a career that works for you based on what you are good at. But, caveat, you've got to take control of it. And there are a couple of skills and insights that you need to have into yourself so that you can turn that into something that feels really, really positive and helps you to be your best at work, and not something that makes you feel really, really lost in. Because this career here, this is about comparison, it's about promotion, it's about advancement. This career, this Squiggly career, the reality where work is now, this is about being curious. It's about discovering about yourself, discovering what you're good at. It's not really about promotion because organisations are getting flatter and flatter. It's about progression, but that can happen in lots and lots of different ways. And it's not about successes advancing up a ladder, it's about exploration. Okay, it's very, very different. It can help you to do your best work and be your best at work, but you've got to take control of it, and there are a couple of skills that you really need to invest in as soon as possible to help you. Those things are, so I'm going to summarise them for you, and then I'm going to go through each one. When I say slowly, we haven't got loads of time, so I'm going to go through each one, but my aim is to give you an exercise that you can do outside of this room so that you can start to think a little bit more about it. So I'm going to go through it quite quickly, take pictures, or I can send these slides as a bit grand, drawings to Richie afterwards, and he can send them on to you. But I want you to be able to take action from today. So the 5 things for you to invest in your career, regardless of whether you're going to marketing or not, are, number 1, your values. Again, as I said, I'll go through each one of them. Values are about knowing what makes you you and what motivates and drives you. The second thing is strengths. Strengths is about knowing what you're great at. The research says that if you know what you're great at and you do jobs that use what you are great at, you are 6 times happier in your job. We're all going to be working on average for 47 years. Like, let's try and be happy in them. Let's use our strengths as much as possible. The next thing is confidence. Okay, confidence, really big part of being able to navigate that squiggly career. You're going to have lots more opportunities, lots more decisions to make. You need to have belief in yourself so that you can go into those decisions confidently. The next thing is network. So in order to be exploring, connecting, discovering, we need to find people to do that through. Okay, so the earlier you can start in your career building a network of people helping people, which is what we call networking, the easier squiggly careers become, to be honest. And the last thing is all about your future possibilities. So career plans were brilliant for staircases. Like I used to be on the Boots grad scheme back in the day, and I used to have career plans like on a Word document that was like a table, and it said like, well, this would have been about 2004, 2005, and it would say like, in 2005 I'm going to be a buyer, and in 2006 I'm going to be a head of category, and in 2007 I'm going to do a sabbatical in whatever. Like I planned it, and none of it came true, and it's fine. But career plans are predictable. They're for a predictable world. We are not operating in a predictable world. We need career possibilities, and it's a different mindset and it's a different approach. So I'm going to talk through each one of these relatively quickly and give you something that you can take away from today so you can start investing in this for yourself. So let's talk about values first of all. So values. Values are what makes you you, they're what motivates and drives you. In a squiggly career, when you're full, you'll have loads of opportunities. You'll have opportunities inside your company, outside your company, you can start side projects. You will be happier if you can connect what you do to what makes you really, really happy and what motivates and drives you. So for example, my top values, I've got 4 values. My top one is freedom, and then I have growth, energy, and achievement. When I'm facing decisions, so I was at Microsoft, that was my last corporate gig, and I had an opportunity about, do I stay in Microsoft or do I go and scale my business, Amazing If, which had been happily operating as a side project, as Richie said, for about 5 years. I'll be honest, the Microsoft thing was quite a nice shiny object. Like it was a nice big fancy job title, would have looked great on my CV. I probably could have been led to make a career decision based on how good that looked for me and what I thought other people might think about it. But when I took a step back and I looked at my values and I said, which one of these opportunities is going to give me more freedom? Which one of these opportunities is going to help me grow and help other people grow more? Which one's going to use my energy? Which one's going to really help me think I'm achieving? When I made a decision based on my values, it was a much easier decision, and it was a pretty obvious decision. And that's how you make sure that you make decisions that align with what you want and you don't kind of get led by what everyone else thinks or shiny objects like salaries, brands, sometimes people, like managers in the future will be shiny objects because you'll think, oh, I want to work for that person, and they can be a bit distracting. So we need to clue into what your values are. That is quite an involved process. I'll share podcasts with you and stuff that you can go and listen to, but a quick and easy action for you to do, and probably to do regularly, is to start thinking about your career highs and lows, all right? So the way of doing this, you can have a template that looks something like this. It looks like a bunch of lines at the moment, but let me explain it. First of all, if you want to think about your career highs and you want to think about your career lows. So if I think about some of mine, I would think about some of my career highs were when I used to work for a company called Capital One. And I worked there, and they were like really bright, sparky people. And I love the energy of that business. If I think about another place that I've worked at, a company called Eon, do you like energy? I led an innovation team there, and I loved it because I was launching new products, I got to build a team, I got to grow a business. And I could keep writing these. So obviously I've been working full-time in employment since 2004. So I've got a bit of a career to kind of reflect on. But you will have done work to this point, whether it's part-time jobs that you've done, or maybe you've worked at the same time as you've been studying, or maybe you're already in full-time employment. How many of you are in full-time employment now? Okay, so at least half of you are in full-time employment. You just want to reflect on all the work you've done to date. Think about what are your highs and what were you doing that made it feel good. And then conversely, you're going to do your lows. What are your low moments? One of mine, nothing to do with the company, but was when I worked for BP, that customer experience and thought leadership job, and I was traveling all the time, shiny object. I thought I wanted to travel all the time. After 2 years of being on a plane, I felt that I'd become a bit of a work robot, so I'd be like robotic. All I did was work. I'd stopped learning, so there was no learning. I'd stopped building relationships with people outside of work. So I'd be writing all this down here. You want to do the same, okay? So fill this page with the highs and the lows and get into the specifics of what was going on. Then what we want to think about on here is in terms of the whys. So what was going on here? So I might say, okay, so when I think about what's consistent, so there's something for me about energy. So I want to be with energy. There's something about bright, sparky people. And I'd be kind of drawing all these insights here. So I need space. If I think about what I was saying here, for me to be at my best at work, I need space. I can't just be working all the time. I need space for like learning and discovery. You will have your own list, but try and derive like what the insight is here. And then you're going to think about what does that mean in terms of your must-haves and your must-nots. Okay, so I might say when I'm working with organisation, my must-haves are I've got to know that I can work flexibly so that I can fit in the other things that I want to do. I've got to know that it's a really high energy organisation. And so this leads me to ask questions when I'm going to my interviews. So actually when I moved from BP, I went to Virgin, and knowing what my must-haves were meant that in my interviews with Virgin, they didn't know what I was doing, but in my interviews, I was saying things like, what's the energy of the business like? How much freedom have people got outside of work to do different projects that they're interested in? And my manager at the time was saying, oh yeah, somebody that would be in your team is a personal trainer. The other person does guitar lessons for people. And so it started to give me insights that this was a place that would align with what's important to me. This is a really reflective process, but the sooner, I do this all the time, the sooner you can start doing this, the more easy it makes your decisions. I would say every couple of months, just reflect on what am I loving at work today and what am I not loving so much. Then think about why, what's going on, and then try and move it to the action, which is your must-haves and your must-nots. The sooner you start using this stuff as filters for your decisions, the more likely you are to make career decisions that are based on what make you happy and not what people around you think you should be doing or what you might just default to because it's easy. Okay, makes sense? I've got a whole podcast around on values. So if you want to get into that bit a bit deeper, the Squigly Careers podcast, I think it's episode 44. Well, I can't remember all of them. There's about 100 of them. Is all on values, and it's about 40 minutes, and it'll help you to go a bit deeper into it. Okay, let's move on to strengths then. So strengths is about knowing what you are great at. As I said, if you can understand what you're great at, you can start connecting that to the work that you do. So for example, I know one of the things that I'm great at is making things happen for organisations. I know that I'm really good at creating clarity for people. So when I talk to my manager at Microsoft, or if I go talk to my business partner, and I can look at all the things we're doing, I can say, look, based on those things, I think I'll add the most value doing those projects. And it means when you start confidently talking about what you're good at, it means you're more likely to do work that aligns with it. And that makes you happier and it becomes reciprocal. Make sense? But it starts with you knowing what you're good at. And when we do this, we do like full day programs on strengths. A lot of people either don't know what they're good at or they're not confident enough to talk about it, which we'll come on to. Really easy thing for you to do to start looking at your strengths. There is a free website and it is called viacharacter.org. Snappy. viacharacter.org. It's like a little survey, you fill it in, it will take you about 5-10 minutes to fill in. What it will do is it will churn out a list of your top 10 strengths. I mean, I wouldn't base any career decisions exactly on what comes out of there, but it's a good starting point to have a think. If you're sat there thinking, I have never thought about what I'm good at, no idea what I'm good at, then I would suggest that is a good starting point to give you some words that might be your strengths based on what you've plugged into the thing. Some of the issues with that are you are basically filling in an online survey based on what you think you are good at. I mean, there's a whole load of issues there. What you need to do is to go and get some feedback about what other people think you are best at. That can feel really scary. Got loads of research for you on why we are not very good at giving or getting feedback. Actually, primarily, but in neuroscience, is that our brains are wired to over-process the negative. So most people, they just hear the bad. Even if I tell you, oh, thanks, that was a brilliant question. Is it Louis? Lewis? Yeah, I said, brilliant question, Louis, that's fantastic. You've kind of gone, where's the bad? Tell me the thing I could have done better, Helen, because our brains are wired to do that stuff. What we need to do in order to really understand what we are best at is to get more strengths-based feedback. A really super simple question for you to start asking is, when have you seen me at my best? Easy question for you to ask. Okay, it doesn't feel too awkward. You can make it a bit more specific. So I could say to someone, I've been in the team for 3 months now. I'd love to know, when did you see me at my best over the last 3 months? So I've made it really specific. Or I might say, I've just finished up that project, launching that rebrand. I'd love for you to tell me when you saw me at my best on that project. Okay? The more you can ask people this, the more you can start to see some consistency. So people will say, oh, I thought it was really, really good how organised you were. If you've got 4 people telling you that when they saw you at your best in the last 3 months was when you organised or led that meeting or brought the team together, it starts to give you some insight into what other people see the impact that you're making is. Okay? So you can balance the self-perception of what you're good at, do those online surveys. There are paid ones that you can do as well, like StrengthsFinder, but the VIA character is free. I mean, they do like email bomb you afterwards, so you might want to unsubscribe once you've got what you want. But then this question as well can help you to get some insight from other people to level it up. Then again, just start getting confident talking about what you're good at. The more that you can do that, the more other people will start to associate you with that strength. So the more I go around Microsoft or Virgin or wherever I work saying, one of the ways that I think I can add the value to the team the most is in helping to create clarity when we're going through our planning process or when we're setting direction or when we're doing strategy. The more I say that to people, the more people say when I'm not in the room, oh, Helen Tupper's really good at creating clarity. But you need the insight to be able to do it, and you need the confidence, which is what we're going to go on to next. Okay? Third skill to succeed in a squiggly career is confidence. Confidence, the way that we define it, is about having belief in yourself and other people believing in you. Okay, so it's not about how loud are you, and it's not about are you an extrovert or an introvert, and it's not about how comfortable are you at standing in front of a room of 30 people. It's not that. Some people are, some people aren't. It doesn't mean they're not confident. Confidence shows up in different ways, but at its root, it is about you having authentic belief in yourself and then inspiring other people to believe in you too. And if anyone sat there going, I'm an introvert and I don't believe you, Helen, there is a really good book and TED Talk called The Power of Quiet by someone called Susan Cain. The TED Talk's obviously free, just look up Susan Cain, and the book, if you want to buy it, it's probably, I don't know, $9.99 on Amazon. But if you're thinking, oh, I'm an introvert and I don't believe that I can be confident, have a look there, because introverts can be very, very confident. It just shows up differently. Introverts are brilliant at the difficult question and the long pause. You know, like extroverts hate pauses, they just want to fill it with their own voice. Case in point. Introverts are really good at an awkward silence. But it's a way that they can kind of powerfully manage a meeting. So you can, if you're an introvert, you can definitely be confident. The other thing is confidence is a skill and it can be learnt. You just need to practice it and you need some tools. I haven't got time to go through all of the tools, but one thing that confident people do is they have a realistic view of what they are doing well. Unconfident people gravitate their thinking to the, oh, I shoulda, or what's that person thinking about me, or I could have done that better. They think constantly about what they did wrong. They're not thinking about what they did right. So we have to hack that a little bit. That's a normal part of the way our brain functions, but we can, with practice, control it. And we can help our brains to think more about what we're doing well, but it takes a bit of effort. It's a bit like a muscle you're going to have to practice. The thing to do is for 10 working days, so these are weekdays, feel free to do it on the weekend if you want to have some fun, if this is your idea of fun. But for 10 working days, you are going to think about 3 successes that you have had that day. So you're going to end your day, you can write it in a notebook or on your phone, or sometimes I just like say it to myself in bed, or sometimes last night I asked my husband in bed. I was like, oh, what have your successes been today? And I think he's probably like, just go to sleep, Helen. But like I do like live and breathe this stuff, so you know, bit of kino. But this would be, so mine today, one of my successes, tell you what one of my successes is, I left my iPad. I was having a meeting before here and I left it in the restaurant, and I was doing a phone call in a taxi because I was trying to do too many things at once. Got halfway here, realised I'd left my iPad. I managed to get back, run to the tube and get here on time. That is going down as one of my successes today. But the point is, you're going to write down 3 successes that you have had at the end of the day. You are not going to write, and 3 things I could have done better. Your brain's already doing that. We don't need to encourage that, okay? 3 things that you did well today, 3 successes that you had today. You're going to do it for 10 working days. By the end of that, by all means, keep doing it. I keep doing it. But even if you just do it for 10 days, you will start to become more aware of what you're doing well. And I'm not saying ignore the things that you can improve on, but you will do that stuff naturally. What we need to do is make sure you're seeing and appreciating where you're adding value, the difference that you're making to other people. It's a really healthy habit for you to start building into your careers right now. Next thing then is networking. Who in here, put your hand up if you love networking? Ah, brilliant. 2 hands. That's good because no one else does. So we've got double hands at the back, and I like it as well. So you and me, we'll be fine. Most people don't love it, largely because they've got associations of it being about awkward conversations with people they don't really want to talk to but think that they probably should. And it just doesn't feel comfortable to us. I'm an extrovert. My business partner, who's not here today, but she's an introvert. We both have really effective networks, but they look different. The introvert-extrovert thing doesn't really matter. It's not just for extroverts. What we do is define networking as people helping people. The reason that's an important thing to say is what feels really awkward is if you have to go and have a conversation that you don't really want to have with someone that you don't really know. I mean, that's just weird. I'm just going up to you and chatting to you for no reason. It feels awkward. What is a lot better is when you have something that you can give to that person that's interesting. So I might be able to say, oh, hi Richie, how's the business going at the moment? I run these evening courses on career development. If you'd like to offer that out to your community, I can give you some spaces. I've suddenly got a way in that's a really nice thing to talk about to people. And I went from, I'm a chatty person, but actually knowing people doesn't mean you've got a good network. That just means you know people. A good career network is one where there's value going back and forth. So it's not just a chat. It's where you've got something going back and forth between people. It's a lot easier if you put the give into it to begin with. And I'll give you an example. So my day today is all as a result of my network, right? So I had breakfast this morning at 9 o'clock with somebody that I met at an event, and I've offered to do her some free coaching, and in return, but we didn't plan it this way, she's given me free space at a members club, like a WeWork. So she's given me some free meeting space, I'm doing some coaching for her. So we are both, it wasn't I'll do this if you do this, but because when you give something to other people, it kind of engenders them to want to help you back. So I always help first, I always put my give in. So that was my first meeting of the day. The second meeting of the day is somebody that used to work for me. Her husband's like an investor in businesses and he's scaled lots of businesses. And so she said to me, oh, you've helped me a lot, because I was her manager. Thankfully, she thought I was a good manager. Why don't you meet my husband and see if he's got any ideas for how you can grow your business? Brilliant, that's been another meeting. I'm now here. Richie and I got introduced by somebody who was a mutual contact who I'd done some work for and Richie had worked for, and then they connected us. My whole day, I'm about to go meet someone who mentored me 4 years ago, who we have this kind of reciprocal thing going on. My whole day is as a result of my network. Now, I wasn't born with someone with a good network. I've had to work really hard at it. But it is possible to build a really strong network for your career. The best tip that I can give you is to think what you've got to give to somebody else. It can be as simple as your time. Okay? It could be as simple as saying to Richie, if you all do this, I'm sure Richie will be overwhelmed, but it could be as simple as saying, I've really enjoyed today. I'd love to volunteer my time to help you organise the next event, if that would be helpful to you. You've all got time to give. You might not be thinking about it, but we've all got 168 hours in a week, and you could probably spare a couple of months to help Richie, or whoever it is, or your manager, or somebody that you think, oh, I'd like to volunteer for. I have lots of people who email me to say, oh, can I help? I just want to volunteer at an Amazing Gift course. Now, some people might have more technical things. Maybe you're a great designer. Maybe you can build websites. Maybe you're an awesome copywriter. All of those things are skills that you could proactively offer up to help people. So effective networks are based on people helping people. It's not just about who you know or how many random conversations that you have. You can fuel your network by thinking about how you can help people. At the very least, you've all got time, but I bet there is something specific that you have got based on your passions, your experience, your knowledge that you can help people with. Okay, so the real question for you to ask yourself in terms of this is, what have you got to give? And then the second question is, who are you going to start giving it to? Because if you're more targeted you can be about this, the better. Like, I don't just go around on a street going, does anyone want any coaching? I am very specific. don't do that to me. But I'm very specific about who I offer that to, because I think they all value it. And you also don't have to offer on the principle of getting it back. To think about it as like credit in the bank. It's we did a course recently, and someone said, oh, it's like career karma. That is exactly what it's like. You help people, and at some point in the future, that engenders some kind of goodwill that comes back to you. But you don't have to plan for it. Okay? You just have to trust that that's the way career karma works. The last thing that we're going to talk about is about this future thing. So, as I said, in this staircase world, that's where career plans were really helpful for us, but we're not in the staircase world anymore. Now we're in a place of career possibilities, and that's a different mindset. That takes a different approach. If you write down a plan and you're really, really rigid about that plan, it can leave you quite vulnerable. Because let's say I think the only job that I want to do next is Russell's job. Where is Russell? Russell over there is the editor of Marketing Week. Brilliant publication for you in your career. Now, if I think I've got a career plan and I think next year I just want to go and work for Marketing Week in Russell's job, my career is completely dependent on what Russell does. If Russell doesn't move on, he stays there, he wants his career plan, he says he wants to be there for 10 years. I'm stuck, and I'm not very resilient. What you're much better to do is start to think about multiple career possibilities and to explore them. So I might say, okay, maybe I might take that role in Microsoft. Maybe I might go be an editor in a marketing magazine. Maybe I might go and run my own company. What I'm going to do is explore all of those things regularly. I'm going to have curious career conversations. It's a lot healthier way of managing your career. And you know what? It's a lot more enjoyable, because you're not asking for jobs. You're not interviewing all the time. I'm basically going, oh, Russell, could you tell me a little bit more about your job? What skills do you think it requires? These are some of the things that I'm really great at, bringing in that strengths piece that we talked about. Is this valuable in these jobs? And Russell might say, no, you've got to be a brilliant writer, or you've got to be a brilliant manager, Helen, and you've not talked about that as being your strengths. But you want to think not about career plans, think about career possibilities and investigating and having curious career conversations. So and I don't often like to say don't do this, it sounds really restrictive, but don't do career plans. Think about career possibilities. And if it's any help to you, there are 4 possibilities that we talk about people exploring. So there is your obvious one. That might be like the one that, like, if you did nothing, is the likely job that you're going to do. So there's the obvious possibility. There is your dream possibility. So what would you do if you weren't restricted by location or money or experience? So I would go be a lecturer at Harvard. It's a shot in the dark, but that would be my dream possibility. Also think about the ambitious one. The ambitious one doesn't have to be more senior. It's got some kind of but involved in it. So I might say my ambitious one would be to have Amazing If as a global business, but I don't know how to do that. There's some kind of but involved in it. And the other one's like a pivot, which might be something that you've done before that you could go back to. So for example, I have worked in sales before. One of my early careers, I sold Pantene and Tampax and Gillette to cash and carries when I used to work at Procter & Gamble. So in theory, I could go back and do sales if I wanted to. But it helps me to think about, okay, who could I go and have a conversation with? I could talk to somebody about what a career in sales looks like now. I could go speak to someone that's a lecturer and actually understand, is that a job that I'd really enjoy, or do I just think it sounds good? I don't know. But the point is, the more proactively we can explore our possibilities, the more consciously we can rule them in or rule them out. Because a lot of the time we have this kind of idea of what a job might be like, and then we go into it and it might not be what we expected. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. We want to go into jobs that we have explored, that are connected to our values and that use our strengths. Does that make sense? Okay, so that is everything that I was going to talk to you. I'm just going to do kind of a quick recap here so you can just see this stuff here. There are no good decisions or bad decisions, right decisions or wrong decisions in your career. It is going to be squiggly and there are going to be lots of changes. Personally, I think marketing is an amazing place to be because it allows you to explore through customers and through lots of different parts of the business. Marketing as a discipline is like hyper connected. So I think it's a great place. I'm a bit biased. Whether you have a long career in marketing or you don't, this stuff is really, really important. And the sooner that you can start investing in your values, your strengths, your confidence, your network, and your career possibilities, the sooner you start being able to take control of a squiggly career and take advantage of all the opportunities that it creates for you. In terms of ways that I can help you after today, so we've gone through it fast. Let me go here. So you can email me. If you are thinking, you mentioned Susan Cain's book on quiet and I didn't write it down, so I have to say that again. Whatever it is, you can email me, helen@amazingif.com. Okay? I'm happy to help as much as I can and I will try and navigate you to places. You can listen to the podcast. So we are nearly at episode 100 of the Squiggly Careers podcast. Episode 27 is one on strengths and episode 44 I think is the one on values, but there's pretty much everything that you're going to encounter at work. And if there isn't, email me and I'll put it on the list for future podcasts so we can cover it. And the last thing is Instagram or LinkedIn, depending on which is your preferred place. We are at AmazingIf. I do a daily career tip. So it's about 3 minutes long and every day I do something, whether it's on confidence or difficult conversations or managing conflict at work, whatever it is, I do a 3-minute tip for you. So if you want like a little thing every day, there or just Helen Tupper at LinkedIn. Our mission is to help make work better for everybody and to put all of our tools into people's hands to do that. So take advantage of it. We put a lot out there to help people. Thank you very much for your time.